Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Richmond. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon, and we're ready for quarterfinal action here between two teammates, Brian Brown-Dewin and Martin Dang. The story of the tournament is Brian Brown-Dewin. BBD, Paul, did not lose in the Swiss portion. He is 15-0 as we come into the quarterfinals. He could have just not played in the last two rounds, including probably just conceding if he really didn't care and, you know, getting some rest or some food or whatever. No, he's like, I want to go undefeated in this thing, and he played it out. And he did. He didn't think his last deck was a 3-0 deck, but it did 3-0, and now he has a chance with 3 wins to be the first player ever to go wire-to-wire undefeated in a professional level event. Yeah. And we're going to see right now, this is stage 1. He has to defeat a Pro Tour champion for starters.
Yeah, it's a world champion against a Pro Tour champion in the top 8 of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, this is a great match, and I am happy to bring it to you alongside Paul Cheon here. We've got Hooded Brawler and Oketra's Monument. Martin Dang's deck is the type of deck that can particularly punish you for playing a card like Oketra's Monument because he's taking a turn off. So we're going to see now, can the Monument get Brian Brown-Dewin back? He thinks the card's great.
And now we kind of know where the Hooded Brawlers went.
That's
Martin Dang got both of them.
Well, he actually got more than both of them.
How many? Oh, he's got 3 copies of the Hooded Brawler here.
He's all about that Hoodie B.
Hoodie B. And he can actually choose to exert with both of the creatures here and kind of trade off one of the Hooded Brawlers for both Giant Spider and a token if BBD chooses to block.
We've had a chance to look at the deck list and talk to the players a little bit. Can you give us an overview of the approach that each of these decks is taking, on the aggression scale, that kind of thing?
So typically the red-green deck is just, especially the type of deck that Martin was looking to draft, was kind of an all-in deck. Very, very aggressive, taking the Bloodlust Insider early because it's at its best in red-green, because green has access to giant green monsters that you can give haste, right?
Absolutely.
And it feels bad using a removal spell on a Bloodlust Insider. So oftentimes it's just going to kind of stay on the board. But at the same time, that makes also just kind of blocking and attacking. You have to really think, like, can my opponent just drop a Colossopede this turn and attack me for 5 with haste?
That's right. The green cards really add a big punch and make it so that Bloodlust Insider, a card that often isn't very good, actually makes it pretty powerful. Now, of course, there's still significant downsides to playing the Insider. For example, if Martin were to draw it here, it wouldn't look nearly as good.
And, we did see...
Let's transition over to Brian Brown-Dewin's strategy.
So Brian Brown-Dewin's strategy is medium green and white creatures and Angel of Sanctions. His plan is to draw Angel of Sanctions every game, and hope to leverage that into a victory.
Well, stage 1 complete. We see Angel of Sanction. This is where Brian's deck turned from scrapping it out looking for playables to, okay, well, now you've got a real good shot here.
And now I got this Angel. And that's the thing. Brian's deck, he's got a reasonable mana curve. He did prioritize those Initiate's Companion pretty highly during the course of the draft.
He did.
I think kind of the more ideal green-white deck has more Exert creatures. I don't even think he has a single Gustwalker in his deck.
No, he does
not.
not.
That's a premium common that you want in this archetype. And yeah, it's not one of those like green-white decks that kind of came together, everything was open, and he just got it. He just kind of had to take cards, and that's why he's playing a card like Giant Spider, right? And after opening the Angel of Sanctions, I think Brian's just like, look, I'm just trying to curve out here and play some combat tricks. If that doesn't work, I'm going to hope to draw my Angel of Sanctions. But again, we kind of talked about it before. The power level of this draft was pretty low.
It was.
So curving out might just be good enough.
And, well, as we mentioned, curving out into Angel of Sanctions, particularly good. Well, you'll also note that he used it on the token that came from that Trial of Strength. That way, even if Martin finds an answer for the Angel, Brian's getting his value. He killed a creature that thing ain't coming back. And
that's the thing. Now that Brian's permanently exiled a creature, he even has the option of trading the Angel of Sanctions with another creature, and then when he has a Mana Bomb, get something else. This thing just gives you so much value.
Oh, it's a great card. It's a really great card. Here's a Colossopede. Yeah. He does have to pay full value or full mana for that one because it's green, not white. But as you can see, Brian's starting to attack. He just attacked Martin down, presumably to 15 here with that Angel of Sanctions.
And this is kind of why I think Oketra's Monument is also considered to be the best monument too. The green monument is good, but it's also only good if you're looking to attack and kind of stay ahead. A Catcher's Monument can even be used in racing situations where you attack with flyers and all those 1/1s that give you free chump blockers.
That's right. Even if you find yourself a little bit behind, which sometimes you do after you spend 3 mana and don't affect the board directly, that's the kind of card that can still stabilize the board for you.
Yeah, it still makes a token every single turn.
It does. Well, theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically. And again, this is also why Brian had to prioritize creatures more. He had the option of taking a compulsory arrest over a Colossopede and opted to take the Colossopede, which, if you go by anybody's pick order, they're really far apart. Right, compulsory arrest is a premium removal spell, but Brian was like, "Look, I only have 8 creatures right now. This is my second pack in pack 3. I need to start picking some of these up because you also want to maximize on one of the more powerful cards in your deck, Catcher's Monument."
Yes, and he did. He did. I mean, he picked it over some cards that, he probably wouldn't have earlier. You mentioned that compulsory arrest.
Yeah, if this was pack 1, there is no way he's taking that Colossopede over the compulsory arrest.
Totally.
Yeah, but Brian pretty firmly ahead here. Martin needs a way to punch through.
Maybe he's got to punch through for a lot. Yeah. BBD's at 12.
Yeah.
One thing about the hooded brawlers as well is that even if you do exert them, they only get bigger. They're 5/4s exerted, but they don't have any evasion, no trample.
Exactly. Looking to see if he has any way to kind of push through damage. Martin Dang also has a Heart Piercer Manticore in his deck. So that gives him a little bit of reach. And
Martin just played a Defiant Great Maw, but he actually, instead of putting the counters on the Great Maw, he actually put them all on the Ornery Kudu.
I see.
Could have taken one off of the Kudu, but he wanted the biggest possible creature so that he can attack into the Colossopede, because as you can see, he's got a Cartouche of Zeal, which he can use to, say, stun one of these cards.
And he's opting to let the token not block and not the Colossopede?
And that was nice of Brian Brown doing. He said, "Hey, do you still want to pick up your trial? These guys are teammates, but, you can make an argument that Martin had already gone to combat there and perhaps missed the trigger, but that is not how that played out. So Martin will have the chance to replay that trial next turn and give himself another 4/2 Beast token.
So kind of trying to figure out why Martin chose to, make it so the token can't block is Martin at this point is basically saying, I am happy if I can trade one of my creatures for your Colossopede, so go ahead, block if you want to. The only thing about doing this is that the Great Maw, which is kind of the biggest creature on the battlefield, will now be, Brian will be able to kind of basically trade by double blocking. And that's exactly what he's doing here. Now the question is, does Martin Dang have another combat trick here, like a Shed Weakness, to keep the Great Maw alive?
By the way, the chat's pointing out that Martin did, in fact, point at the trial. He just forgot to, literally pick it up. So
okay,
he announced the trigger, which is certainly more than enough.
Right.
It was just a matter of actually picking up the card.
Well, so Martin did do an okay job of kind of cleaning up the board, but
he's behind still.
Yeah, he's definitely behind, and Brian has basically a couple of turns to draw some creatures, as both of the hooded brawlers are currently exerted.
He can also apply some amount of pressure here if he'd like, but he basically just wants to see a steady stream of creatures come off the top of his library here so that he can get the most out of that monument. He's already got a couple of warriors out of the deal, but he wants as much as he can get, and look at this. He's going to attack with everybody.
Yeah, the Kudu is just a 0/1, so.
Yeah, not a great blocker, and it's not even going to jump in front of anything. Martin's going to take all the damage and fall down to 9.
Yeah. One thing that Brian needs to be a little bit mindful of, although it's not going to matter here because he put a ton of creatures onto the battlefield.
Jeez.
I was going to say...
He just effectively put 5 creatures on.
Yeah, I was going to say some kind of creature into Cartouche of Zeal might be able to steal the game, but not with, of course, 6 blockers now on the battlefield. Wow.
Right. He untapped 1 and added 4.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, we get it. We get it. You're a powerful magician. Okay.
Does Martin have something like a Charioteer in his deck to maybe try to force through damage so that the Vigilance tokens aren't just going to be chump blocking? He needs something big here.
Okay, we knew about the Trial of Strength coming down.
And again, that's the thing. Martin needs an answer for the Angel of Sanctions.
Absolutely.
But one of the major answers he could have is something like an Electrify, and the Angel just comes back.
Yes. In fact, it might be worse for him if he were to kill it. BBD probably says, well, now I got something to do with my mana later on.
Yeah, and I get to eat that 4/2 beast that's on the battlefield.
Exactly. Now, things do get kind of interesting from here because while Brian did have a really good turn last turn, things can get pretty precarious for him because Martin does get to untap both Hooded Brawlers next turn. They will no longer be exerted, and that adds a potential 10 power of attacking to the board, and Brian's going to have to anticipate that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Brian has an especially good attack with the other creatures on the board. I think there's a pretty decent chance that if he chooses to attack with something, it's likely just going to be with the Angel of Sanctions. It is a 3-turn clock. If Martin Deng does choose to exert the Brawlers, then they get to take a turn off. Of course, a lot of this also depends on what Brian's last 2 cards are in hand.
Yeah, Brian could force a chump block of some sort from Martin if he wants to attack with the Bitterblade Warrior, the Sparring Mummy, and the Angel. That is a lethal attack. But as you can see on the board, the Ornery Kudu looks pretty expendable and would likely just jump in front of one of the ground creatures.
And that does, again, leave Brian a little bit vulnerable, to effects like Cartouche of Zeal. So Brian does have to be a little bit careful with how he wants to attack. Yes, the Sparring Mummy can definitely attack along with the Bitterblade Warrior if he wants to do that. But I don't think Brian is interested in throwing away his soldier tokens.
Yeah, the warriors.
The warrior tokens.
Yeah.
Because
the spider has an attack here too, though. This gets kind of interesting when you really break it down. It's 2 toughness, 1 toughness for Martin. But of course, the big question is, if Martin were to survive, would you die to the Hooded Brawlers and in some combination with a combat trick like you're mentioning, something along those lines?
Okay, and Brian opting to be very aggressive here.
I like this a lot.
Yeah. I think Brian has to have a creature here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he has a creature that he uses.
And so this attack makes a lot more sense.
Right. Because remember, Martin does have to block some stuff.
Right.
He can't just take this. Look at this. There's a trade. Oh, Martin's going to rethink this.
I guess Brian could opt to attack with everything. Martin can't just eat all the tokens, right? And how much damage is that?
Yeah, Brian did attack with everything.
Okay, yeah.
They're all in there.
So the Kuda is going to go in front of the biggest creature on the board.
Yep.
That would be 7 damage if Martin blocks the way he's kind of pointing at. Angel gets in for 3, 2 from the tokens and 2 from the spider. And Martin would survive.
He would survive and have Hooded Brawlers, but unfortunately for Martin, Brian would still have 2 untapped warriors, and then whatever else he happens to cast post-combat.
Yeah. Martin in a tough spot, but he has to make blocks in such a way where he at least gives himself a chance to win.
That's right.
So I don't think he's interested in trading off a bunch of creatures. He wants as many creatures on board as possible.
2 cards in hand for Brian Brown.
Martin Deng playing 2 copies of Brute Strength in his deck.
Okay, that could get through some extra damage.
Yeah, and it's a great way to attack through those tokens.
Another thing to consider here, though, is that if Brian himself has a combat trick that ups the power by 2, he could also just kill Martin, right? 3, 4. In this case, no. This is 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to put Martin down to 3, but also decimate his board, leaving him with just the Hooded Brawlers left over, and against 3 of the warriors.
So the way Martin blocked, it made it so that he couldn't die to a +2/+2
like
effect.
Spidery Grasp, which we know that BBD has in his
Spidery
deck.
Grasp, Shed Weakness, Mighty Leap. All the pump spells actually pump for 2.
Yep.
So he just didn't want to die to one of those pump spells.
Yeah.
So now, is there an attack that Martin Deng can make, along with the possible Brute Strength, that could get him the victory here? Brian has...
It doesn't feel like it as long as Brian is willing to be pretty conservative with his blocks.
Right. I mean, Martin's at 3, and then Brian's got an Angel of Sanctions in play. I think he's just
right.
going to be blocking with everything here.
I think you're right. Also, the Sparring Mummy is also lethal. So if Martin left the shields down for that, he could be facing multiple lethal threats, so he can't leave himself dead on board.
So Martin's at 3. The only card he could have is a Stinging Winds.
A stinging shot. He could have his own Spidery Grasp, but...
Oh, right. Yeah, that is also...
If he has any
of
those
he's got
in his
2.
deck.
He has 2 copies.
Martin Deng does?
Yeah. Everybody has a bunch of Spidery Grasps in their deck.
All right. Well, he doesn't have one in his hand because BBD sends in the team and elicits a sigh from Martin Deng, who says, ugh, that didn't go how I wanted it at all. And
that is going to monument.
It did serious work, and you can see why Brian prioritized it so highly in the booster draft. Okay, we've got a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have game 2 of Martin Deng versus Brian Brown Duin. here at Grand Prix Richmond. We are in the quarterfinals. We've got Brian Brown Doohan trying to make history today, Paul. It really, I'm not trying to blow it out of proportion, but nobody's done it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that there might be a curse.
Yeah, I kind of talked to him about it, and he's just like, yeah, maybe I just cursed myself.
Yeah.
Like maybe I should have like scooped the last round or something.
Let's take a look at our another one of our quarterfinal matches. This is Michael Baranecki. He's playing against Tiago Saporito.
That is a Bantu the Glorified on the battlefield.
Absolutely. And we've got, it looks like 2 decks looking to go at it. Red-based, both of them, but one of them is paired white, one of them is paired black with it.
But Bantu does have a pretty significant drawback. It seems like it's one of the more difficult gods to turn on compared to the others.
Very much so.
You need to sacrifice a creature to actually be able to attack or block with it. And that's a really big cost in draft.
I know. They throw you a bone. They're like, well, we'll drain them for 1 and give you a scry 1. And you're like, okay. And you got to pay 2 mana. You're like, okay, I guess. But losing creatures is very difficult to come back.
It feels more like a build-around type constructed card than something that you would actively want in draft. Whereas you open something like a Ronus the Indomitable, and you're just like, oh my god, this is just going to be the best card in my deck.
That's right. Yeah, Hazaret's been really impressive.
Yeah. Oketra has done some work.
Definitely.
I think Kefnet's maybe drawn 1 card.
Yes. Again, we talked about Kefnet earlier in the weekend, you and I, Paul, but the take that I've heard, I haven't had a chance to do this myself, is being aggressive with Kefnet apparently is the way to go.
Okay.
A 5/5 flyer for just 3 mana, if you can get Kefnet, you have to have 7 or more cards in your hand to be able to attack or block with Kefnet. But if you can get Kefnet active in battle mode,
right,
that is an incredibly quick clock that's very difficult to interact with.
Absolutely.
What are they supposed to do?
Absolutely.
Indestructible 5/5 flyer that you paid 3 mana for?
Not bad.
I mean, I think it's just, for you and I, we're like, ooh, I'll sit back, I'll draw me some cards.
Of course.
Think about all the possibilities. But I think that it might be better just to kind of move all in, so to speak, and just be like, draw a card for my turn, activate Kefnet, draw a card, pick up a land, attack you for 5,
that's
go.
just 4 turns.
Yeah. It is a very, very quick clock.
So now Martin's going to be on the play. I think both players really, really want to go first here. Put a bunch of pressure, especially Martin's deck, because just given how he drafted this deck, he's got 2 copies of Cartouche of Zeal along with double brute strength. He just wants to curve out and
just keep getting damage in, huh?
If Brian stabilizes at any point, it's going to be much harder for Martin Deng to win. But he does have a couple of ways to get reach. Again, he does have the Heartpiercer Manticore and the Brute Strength, which allows you to trample over for damage.
Looks like we may have some mulligans happening here.
Yeah. Well, Brian probably doesn't have the Angel of Sanctions in hand, so you gotta dig for it.
You think he's going to mulligan until he hits Monument Angel of Sanctions?
It's like a draw 6. Mulligan's like a draw 6. It's a pretty powerful effect if you're just looking for Angel.
It is true, and you even get a scry.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul.
We
need to talk about how this all. We may need to have a little chit chat about the old draw 6 there. Yeah, Brian Brown trying to go 18-0. With how many tournaments we have these days, I'm surprised that it's never happened.
Right. There's been so many Grand Prix.
Yeah. And especially the further you go back in time where, the Grand Prix tournaments were so much smaller as far as attendance goes, and sometimes the skill gaps were bigger.
There's that no lands?
Well,
maybe there's 1 or 2. But yeah, the one of the things that ends up happening though is oftentimes a player will be like 13-0, and maybe they get paired against somebody they know.
Yes.
Maybe a draw happens so that both of them are locked for the top 8. Maybe a concession occurs. Things like that happen, and so you don't see 15-0 very often. But Brian was 13-0, and he was locked into the top 8. His tiebreakers were fantastic, so he had basically nothing to lose here. And going into 18-0 is a kind of a cool story, right?
It's really cool.
Yeah. And now he has that opportunity to do that.
I mean, as a completely impartial commentator, I don't root for the players, but I can't lie. I kind of want to see it happen. I've seen, I've covered a GP where players have gone undefeated in Swiss, which is very rare.
Right.
But never one where they've gone wire to wire. Red Crop Spearmaster for BBD.
Ooh.
Oh, but this is a pretty big setback for him. Martin Dang is going to main phase cycle.
Yeah.
Dean Worthy.
Green-white has a ton of combat tricks that can punish you for waiting until your opponent's turn. If you're going to do it anyways, might as well just do it on your main phase.
That's right, and that's a clean 2-for-1 for Martin Dang, killing a 3-drop and drawing a card off of Dean Worthy. This follow-up isn't super exciting. What else does he have?
Just a couple of creatures.
Defiant Great Maw and an F-Crop Entangler.
It looks like Brian is stuck on 3 lands here.
He is, yeah. He passed last turn after playing the Honed Kopesh.
Yeah.
Another card I'm not really in love with, to be honest.
No. I think he's playing 2 copies of it in his main deck.
Gosh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
If you're playing a bunch of bad creatures, you have to make them a little bit better somehow.
I mean, he already mulliganed once this game. No need to do it again.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't have a lot of mana sinks. I don't think he picked up any Greater Sandworms or Winged Shepherds.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to attack with the Initiate's Companion, miss his land drop, use its trigger to untap itself, and simply pass.
And if I'm Martin Dang, kind of like alarm bells are going off.
Blood's in the water, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Why did he not equip the Hone Kopesh? He just passed with 3 mana up.
What is going on?
Brian has to be representing some kind of a combat trick. We do know he's drafted 3 Spidery Grasps. I don't know how many he's actually playing in the main deck. But at the same time, keep in mind, Martin Dang has a Magma Spray in his hand. So if Brian's the first person to fire off a combat trick, that puts so much pressure on him. Brian can also opt to just block and just be happy with a trade here.
Yeah, Martin's going to say go. Oh,
yeah.
He's going to walk right into it.
Right. Yeah, and this
Look
is huge.
At this. Yeah, this could be a misstep here for Brian Brown doing, because there's no way Martin just slams his creatures in there assuming that BBD has nothing, right?
But you cannot put him on nothing. He would have equipped that Hone Kopesh.
Absolutely. So the fact that Martin did attack signified, I have something too.
Right.
But Brian felt like he needed to fire it
What's
off.
funny is this Hone Kopesh actively hurt Brian because it gave him that option to equip. But it's like, wait, he didn't. So he's going to use a combat trick here. So all I'm going to do is attack, make him use it, and then get the 2-for-1.
Yeah. If Martin had nothing in hand, maybe he just holds his creatures back. But
right.
There we go. Here's Vizier of Deferment, which he's going to use just to take the Nefcrop Entangler out of combat.
Just to prevent 2 damage.
Yeah, he's going to take 2 still from the hungry hippo there. Ooh.
Okay.
Heartpiercer Manticore. It looks like Brian Bronduin's not the only one who picked up one of those.
Right. And Martin Dang opted to sacrifice the Defiant Great Maw there because putting the Hone Kopesh onto the Vizier of Deferment means that Brian's going to have a 3/3 on the battlefield, and the Manticore can't attack through that. And the Great Maw also will just be completely brick-walled by the 3/3 that would be on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Martin doesn't seem to have a lot of synergies with the whole counter thing with the Great Maw.
Yeah. That's traditionally something you see in the black-green deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Martin has to have something there if he just opts to attack his rare into a Trial of Strength token.
Probably so. I mean, there is an argument. Remember, the Heartpiercer Manticore does have Embalm. It's not the worst thing to have in your yard still. You got to read him for some type of trick there.
Yeah, it's possible he just wants to trade, then played like a 5-drop, like a Colossopede that turn, then followed that up with an Embalm.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian's still just stuck on 3 lands.
Yeah, he is going to get pounded here if he can't find a land, and promptly, like now.
Yeah, and that was an Oketra's Monument.
So miserable. And he's just going to scoop him up. This is where cards like that really do fail. You're too far behind to make them. They don't affect the board at all. If he had drawn a 3-drop creature, maybe he could have maybe played it and started to try to stabilize, but it didn't work out that way. So we're going to get a game 3. Oh, for sure.
Wow, what is this board?
Holy smokes!
There's 2 mythics and a rare on the battlefield.
Oh my goodness! He has Bantu, Neheb the Worthy,
and Liliana.
What
is this?
in the world?
Did he just bring a pre-constructed deck from home for the top? We were saying how the card pool was pretty bad.
We were wrong. They just all pooled up at Michael Baranecki's draft deck here.
That
apparently.
Liliana's on 8 counters too. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
This is insane.
Wow.
Michael also has a
stamina.
combat trick here. And I believe the Vizier is also a Minotaur, right?
Mm.
But I don't think Michael currently has. Oh yeah, Michael has one card in hand. So Neheb's ability has also happened. Yeah, this is just. Yeah.
That is what I was going to say. I was
Right.
going to say this is just game, and that in fact is exactly what happened. Michael Baraniecki, he's through.
Yeah.
He's our first semifinalist that we know about.
He's got to be feeling pretty excited. They're beating Thiago Saporito,
No
a world-class
kidding.
player.
Yeah, Thiago's no joke.
Yeah.
Game 3 coming up here between Brian Browndoin and Martin Dang. And this really is the clash of the Titans here in our top 8.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of them looked over to the side and was like, oh, my God. Like, they're kind of fighting a fair fight here where
Right.
both of them are like, I made a deck. I'm
Yeah.
not super happy with it. I'm not super bummed
I
about
wonder
it.
if afterwards they're like, wait, you played that bad card too? Yeah, we didn't have enough playables.
But then they're going to run up against Michael at some point, and he's just going to be like Liliana, Death's Majesty,
based
and they're
on-
looking down at like their bloodlust.
Based on,
insiders.
maybe the 10 cards in his decks that I've seen, he's got to be the favorite to win this.
Yeah. There's another good deck floating out there. We'll talk about it if it gets
Okay.
on camera too.
All right.
Yeah, somebody drafted blue-black.
Ooh.
Yeah. Pretty good version of it too.
All right. Yeah, again, if you just kind of look back at Brian's draft, I don't see how a great deck could have actually happened. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Just on his side of the table, at least, there just weren't a lot of great cards to choose from.
Thought he did a pretty darn good job
Definitely.
maneuvering through that seat that was ultimately very tough, especially given that his first pick rare was a Heartpiercer Manticore and there was no red.
Right.
Not after the first couple of picks.
Oh, and Brian going down to 6 again.
Uh-oh.
Is the curse of the 15-0?
This is 15-0 on the
happening?
line right now. This is how the curse makes itself known.
I wonder what
Mulligans.
percentage of 15-0s have made it to the finals.
Well, I've only gotten a chance to commentate, I believe, one 15-0 in the Swiss.
BBD is staring at me with a fat 0.
Yeah.
Nobody who's been 15-0
I hope that's not BBD
at a
staring
tournament.
at you.
Oh, sorry. BDM. Look, it's 3 letters. It starts with a B. It's they both have a D. It's just so close.
So,
but yes.
but 0.
Yeah, 0.
0.
Wow.
Well, BBD's got a keeper here.
Yeah, BDM's got a great hand.
Martin, nothing to do on turn 1. Brian's got
Ooh.
a 2-drop
Ignatius
here.
Companion off the top, it looks like.
Sure, that's fine.
Oh, sideboard
Or is
tech.
it? Wow, all right.
Blazing Volley.
Blazing Volley does 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. In this case, Martin's not going to be greedy. He's just going to use it to take out the 2-drop on the other side.
Brian really
Brian
wishing
says,
he
wish I
played.
would have played that first.
Really wish he had a Hone Kopesh to play around it, you know?
Yeah, totally. Okay, a good start for Martin Dang here. He gets to 1-for-1 for cheap and then follows up with a Hooded Brawler. Also, he did not mulligan.
God, the Hooded Brawler just so brutally efficient. It's a 3-mana 5/4 on offense. At common.
Yeah, that is very powerful.
Yeah, look at Brian. He doesn't even have a good block here.
No.
If Martin Dang chooses to exert,
You're
his
right.
2-mana and 4-mana defensive creatures just can't even block this 3-drop. Ooh, and he's going to get a rummage effect
He
here.
is. If he wants to exert, that Battlefield Scavenger actually affects all exert creatures on Martin's side. And whenever they exert, he can discard a card. If he does, he draws a card. And that's what he did. He got rid of a redundant mountain here.
And a 1-drop?
There's the Insider. It's a little late, but not too late.
Right. No,
Like,
this
it
is
absolutely could still affect this game in a positive way for Martin.
Yeah, this is still kind of the midpoint of the game. Martin then can easily just play a Colossopede if he did have something
He
like
doesn't
that.
have any.
He doesn't have any Colossopedes. Okay. But even
He's
something
playing the 3-mana Colossopede.
right. Even another Hooded Brawler would just be great here.
That's the one.
And the question is, would Brian even trade with his Colossopede, or is he going to just chump block with the Priest? I think I saw Cartouche of Zeal as well, so he can give lots of things haste.
Maybe try to steal a game here.
Right.
There's a Defiant Great
Where
Maw.
are the counters going? Okay.
Looks like they're going to go right on the Great Maw.
Looks like Brian's done a good job of kind of keeping Martin's aggression at bay.
Yeah, he really has. The Bloodlust Insider doesn't even get active.
Yeah. And again, this will happen sometimes. If you don't draw the right mix of removal or combat tricks and your opponent just kind of plays bigger threats, you're just kind of stuck there staring and you can't do anything. And as the kind of the slower, bigger green decks get to play more and more threats, you just fall further and further behind.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing a Colossopede on the other side is already not great news for Martin Dang. He's going to get attacked for 6 here as well. Martin's going to take it, and Brian's probably looking at it like, oh, what's going to happen now?
Ooh, okay.
Lots of haste possible.
So Martin Dang here, looks like he's going to exert first here, get in for 5, because Brian doesn't have a block that would make it so he doesn't at least lose 2 creatures here. And also if Martin Dang has some kind of a combat trick, he might lose all 3 if he triple blocks.
This is a reasonable block from Brian Brown doing also. He's going to block with the Unwonder Priest because it has some bomb.
So I think Martin Dang drew a Trial of Strength.
Okay.
I think that's what he drew. And if he does,
here.
with the Cartouche of Zeal, that's just 2 4/2s, just adding more to the board.
But they don't match up well against the Colossopede still.
Right. But
So
he
the
does have a
question is,
one-time
can he
use of
make
the
him
Trial of
race
Zeal.
it? Yeah, because again, the Bloodlust Insider has yet to be activated because Martin still just doesn't have good attacks because, well, there's a giant spider.
It can also act as a Renewed Faith. It can chump block and gain 6 life. It's so versatile, Marshall.
It is, yeah, good at all times.
Right, right.
When you're behind, it gains you 6.
Yeah, and when you're ahead, it's
Does 6 damage.
it gives haste to your biggest creature. Is Martin Dang going to gain 6 life here?
No, he's going to take 6 damage. I think Martin might have some ideas either in hand or in his library about what he might be able to draw and pair with that Bloodlust Insider that he can use to try to get in for the full lethal here.
Yeah, keep in mind, if he has a Trial of Zeal, he can play the Trial of Zeal, make it so one of Brian's creatures can't block, return to Trial of Strength, replay it, get a 4 to give that haste, and attack for a ton.
So if he has the Cartouche of Zeal, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, the Cartouche of Zeal, not the Trial of Zeal.
Yeah. That is a big swing, isn't it?
Yeah, but Brian is at 16. Even then, I don't even think Martin can muster up lethal here.
It does feel like it's difficult.
Yeah.
Especially if Brian has plays here.
No, just an Anointed Priest. So Martin is setting himself up nicely to get a pretty reasonable attack here.
I think he wants to go for an unreasonable attack. I think he's hoping to draw something that facilitates something disgusting.
Well, Brute Strength would do that.
Yep.
That would make blocking much, much worse.
Big creature.
He could also draw the second copy of his Cartouche of Zeal. That would be big. And I don't think Brian really has any way. I don't think Brian's playing a Mighty Leap. So all Martin really has to do is just kind of keep a creature back to chump block the Colossopede. Although if Martin puts up a big enough board presence here, Brian might actually keep the Colossopede back on defense.
Martin's deep in the tank here. He knows how important this stretch is. This is, of course, Game 3 of our main feature match in the quarterfinals here in Richmond. So,
but you kind of look at a game like this. That's Scavenger has done some pretty good work. It's allowed Martin to rummage through 2 lands. And look at Brian. He's got 6 lands on the battlefield. He's kind of out of resources here, whereas Martin just keeps drawing gas.
Martin's lining up a significant attack.
Okay, so we have 1 rummage here.
What does he want to get rid of?
Looks like he's got 3 spells in his hand.
Giant spider. He wants something better than that.
Is that a Hooded Brawler?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it might be better.
So Brian looking to line up kind of some of the obvious blocks here. He could opt to put the 1/3 in front of the Defiant Great Maw as well and just choose to take 4, I think. These are the blocks that make the most sense.
Yep. Kill that, trade that.
Incoming Blazing Volley #2. Although that would kill an Anointed Priest and a token. That's
Holy smokes! How did you know that?
I was just trolling. I was just saying
who
things.
has the second one? Oh, that was a hell of a read right there, Paul. I'm impressed.
Wow.
We could not see his hand. All right.
I don't think I've ever cast that card. And
Yeah. And somehow Martin Dang, fearing, of course, Oketra's Monument, has decided to bring in the Blazing Volley.
All right.
All right. Well, the race is still on here. Martin Dang at 6, Brian at 13.
Did he play a second Scavenger as well? Wow, Brian just continuing to attack right now. Wow.
I guess he figures it's lethal. I get to just make you chump block. And
look at this.
We got there,
renewed
Paul.
faith.
We got there, Paul.
Look at that.
Bloodlust Insider came down as a 1/1, neither attacked nor got activated the entire game and chump blocked.
1 mana gain 6 life. Is that just too powerful of a magic card?
I think it's a perfectly printable card. Let's just say that.
Okay, so it was not. So I saw 1 red spell in Martin's hand. I thought it was a Cartouche of Zeal, but I think it was actually just the Blazing Volley.
That's right. Yeah. His hand is Land Hooded Brawler now.
And he gets to rummage again. This
Martin's
Scavenger doing
for a
so
lot of
much
damage.
work.
It really is. Does he find what he needs?
See a red card.
Here too. I don't know what it is though.
Yep. Those are kind of, they're going to be trading with each other.
Yep.
Okay.
Brian says, I still have this Colossopede, man.
Yeah, Brian does
6/6
have
first strike. Deal with that.
the biggest creature standing. Oh, that was a Cartouche of Zeal that he rummaged into, which is unfortunate because he could have just gotten a better attack in here probably.
Yep. And his resources have fallen pretty far behind.
And he might need to play it here if he just wants to make a 4/2 this turn. Oh.
You can play the Hooded Brawler instead.
Is that Hoodie B #3?
Oh, that's the second.
That's the second one,
Yeah.
okay.
That was the one he had in his hand from last turn.
Right.
Now, if he's got mana concerns, he could just play the Cartouche here and pick it up.
No, it looks like he wants to go for the surprise effect.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, it's so much more powerful if you can set that up. It's just, if you end up tight on mana, you'll regret that.
All right, so how aggressive does Brian want to be here? I think he's probably still going to attack with that Colossopede because it's almost the same as blocking.
Every turn, right?
Right, it just eats a creature every single turn, and he's attacking with both here.
Wow, Red Crop Spearmaster is going to get exerted. It's now 4/1.
So I think the Defiant Great Maw likely will go in front of the Colossopede, and Martin basically just has to think, okay, well, does Brian have a combat trick here? Does he have a Spidery Grasp? And he does not.
He does not, or if he does, he doesn't fire it off. And yet, because he didn't, he had another Red Crop Spearmaster and passes back. Brian Brown is very close.
How much damage is this? Martin thing does have a Cartouche of Zeal here. He can play a.
So he can make a hasted 4/2 and make something not be able to block?
I don't think he can make a hasted 4/2 because he has to play the Cartouche prior to.
Oh, you're totally right.
Right, but he can play the Nefcrop Entangler, play the Cartouche. Then he doesn't have mana to play the Trial of Strength. So that's 4 + 5, 9. That's 11. He's 2 damage short.
Oh, so close for Martin. Dang, the Pro
short.
Tour champion. And truly one of the nice guys out on the Pro Tour circuit as well. He is a pleasure to talk to.
I am so short.
He's like, I am close. Look at BVD. He just awaits his fate. He has no cards in hand, so he's just like, look, man, do what you're going to do. I got nothing to say about it.
Yeah, I guess Martin basically has to hope BBD doesn't draw anything. He won't die next turn. He's going to have to use one of his creatures to chump block the Colossopede. He might be able to get an attack in this turn.
Yeah, he can add 2 creatures to the board, like you said. He does not have enough toughness to put in front of the first striking Colossopede, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think he will for the duration of the game, given that it's lethal and he has to keep throwing creatures in front of it no matter what.
And I think Martin really wants to sandbag the Cartouche of Zeal because I think that's kind of that. I think that's what he wants his game plan to be to win off of that. because I think the can't block clause is going to be really important here. Because every single turn, BBD's just been like, okay, I'm just going to attack with everything, leave one guy back. Attack with everything, leave one guy back.
Yep. Like you said, he's trying to force Martin to block. And he's been doing a good job of it.
One thing he can consider doing, though, is play the Cartouche of Zeal, get an attack in, and then exert and get rid of the Entangler and maybe try to draw something better. If you don't, then you can just play the Trial of Strength. And it looks like that might be what he's looking to do here. He does need to keep the Scavenger back, I think, because it's unlikely for him to be able to play 2 creatures this turn. So I think he's probably just going to attack with Hooded Brawler without... Oh, no. Does he want to exert?
He's thinking about it right now, Paul. He's not going to exert.
Like, okay, so he's opting not to.
And just for 4.
And then he's just basically just playing a chump blocker this turn.
Yeah, that's right. And he needs to chump block with 2 creatures.
Right.
It does, of course, force Brian Brown to exert if he wants to make it a chump block, but that seems well worth it here.
This does give Martin an out, though. If Brian doesn't draw anything, Martin can block both of these creatures and draw Brute Strength for the win.
Yes.
That's 9 damage exactly.
He can. Wow, that would be absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Martin just playing to his outs. And again, Brian also doing what he can to eat all of Martin Dang's creatures. That Scavenger really doing so much work again. Imagine if he had Blazing Volley number 3.
He doesn't have 3 of them, does he?
Who knows?
No way.
I mean, it's not like I'm staring at his deck list right now.
Right. Okay, both creatures are in the red zone for Brian Brown doing, trying to go 18-0. This would be win number 16 if he can get there.
Does he
Martin
have
makes the obligatory blocks, and he
creature.
does have a blocker.
All right, it's going to be, I can't imagine. I don't think he has a card that gets him out of this.
It's just too much to try to get that last 9 damage.
Does he have an on-crop Crasher? Let me take a look. No. Yeah.
He's just shaking his head. He knows now that when Brian untaps, he gets to attack with multiple lethal threats. What can Martin Dang do?
Oh, he might have a Manticore. He could draw that if Brian opts not to block. But I can't see how Brian doesn't block here.
Brian blocks here. And there's a Nefcrop Entangler.
All Brian has to do now is just attack with both of his creatures here.
That's right. He doesn't know that, so he's going to think of this through.
Martin could have a Spidery Grasp to actually stay alive here, too.
You just have to go for it, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he decides. He shrugs his head. He's going to be attacking with both. Are we exerting? Yes. Is that good enough?
Oh,
he has the Spidery Grasp for Martin Dang.
Oh, my God. Is that lethal?
He gets to untap his Hooded Brawler, block, and block. So how big is the Hooded Brawler now?
It's a 6...
It's got
7?
4. It's got 5. Yes. It actually gets to eat the Colossopede here?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Spidery Grasp for Martin Dang.
Oh, but another creature
creature for Brian Brown to win, and it's another lethal creature, too.
Wow.
Martin does get to attack with his Hooded Brawler, but he still has to get through Oketra's Attendant and get in an additional...
I think Martin has to attack and try to bluff like a Brute Strength to get Brian to block with the Oketra's Attendant, and then...
have a creature.
And he also needs another creature, but that's the only way he's going to get out of this. And he needs to exert here. So he has to block.
He's doing that. Brian.
Oh, that was a theme worthy in Martin Dang's hand.
No way.
Yes. And he should do it main phase.
He can kill the one that's going to untap here by cycling it.
Oh,
Martin Dang just cycled Deem Worthy to kill one of the lethal threats, and is this one slipping away from Brian Brown doing?
Oh, Brian can still embalm the Oketra's Attendant.
Yes, he has a play here no matter what. And Martin Dang's only creature is exerted. It will not be untapping, at least naturally.
Yeah, people can say, "Oh, well, it was just easy. Just don't block with your creature." But again, that Brian has studied Martin Dang's deck and knows that he has 2 Brute Strengths in his deck.
That's right. Okay, this is a huge turn for Martin Dang. He has scrapped and fought to stay in this Cartouche of Strength.
That's not enough, though.
From Martin Dang.
Oh,
he gets to pick it up.
The Cartouche. Oh, my goodness.
And he gets to play it. And he's going to pass the turn back.
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
It's so close. Can Brian find a way to get rid of this beast?
Brian should attack here, right? Yeah, he should attack and force the trade on the beast. But then Martin Dang can attack. He has 7 damage here if he exerts. So he probably won't exert. I think, based on the fact that Brian's thinking for so long, I would guess that he doesn't have a creature here.
He doesn't. He passes the turn back, and he just has to hold his breath.
Oh my! And Martin attacks.
But he does not find the win. He finds a forest off the top of his
But Martin
library.
has a gigantic trampler here. I don't even know. Brian needs to draw Angel of Sanctions here.
That's
not a land.
He whiffed. He found 2 lands off the top.
Oh
Martin
my goodness!
Dang is going to win this match.
This game was insane.
Unbelievable. What a comeback. Brian had it. It was right there for the taking. And Martin Dang wins the match 2-1. These 2 guys are friends, and you can see them commiserating after this. And Brian is like, I had it. I really had it.
Trial of Strength that game.
Hello.
Spider Grasp was insane, but Trial of Strength. Martin Dang got to cast that thing 3 times.
Thrice the times, and that did it. Wow, unbelievable stuff. That's it for the quarterfinals here from Richmond.
The dream is dead. Once again.